Good morning, everybody. Thanks again for watching my channel. So, first, I'd like to say is that the Astro Command is very real. Obviously, those who know about this, but I'm going to give you my take again about the experience that I've had with them. So, they were part of a negative faction and they distanced themselves from that negative faction and formed their own separate group. And this group of the Ashtar Command was brought into this negative faction, and they realized that this wasn't exactly what they were told it would be. And being that they are very capable, they've managed to distance themselves from this faction and participate in the liberation of planet Earth. That is very true. So we go back to saying the same things that we said before. When they approached me and they asked about what are the results, they asked for our help. Specifically, they said we need for you to help us here, and for the sake of humanity and its future, we don't want any zero reptilians around on planet Earth. What's happening now is very unfortunate. There are lots of scenarios and situations, and I'm going to try and explain as best as I can without stepping on anybody's toes. But it's just that when you channel, and I think a lot of you can understand where I'm coming from with this, from personal experience. When you receive a channeled message from higher dimensional beings, in my experience, it's happened where the energy comes through, you get this burst of information, right? And then all of a sudden you forget it. It's as if you were in a different dimension. Yes, as if you were, you're physically here, but your whole consciousness, your whole existence was somewhere else, having a conversation, getting explained things, and then all of a sudden you come back down to reality, so to speak. You blink twice and you wondered what happened, and you're like, okay, you know what? I can't even remember the things that occurred. All right, that leaves an open hole in your aura. It leaves an open doorway because you've made a connection, and that connection is there. Okay, when you're talking to someone, you just had a conversation at the gas station with the guy that's pumping your gas, and you talk about baseball, basketball, any other sport, whatever the case may be, or a movie. Whatever comments that person made just kind of linger with you a little bit. You know, and it's a normal thing to happen to anybody. It happens also when you do these kinds of channelings. If you connect with a higher being, you leave yourself open to a lot of possibilities. You learn a lot, right? But then your recollection of the things that were said may not be exact. They may not be all accurate, okay? And you get to fill in these gaps with your own ego of what may have been said, or embellish a truth, or outright just block out something that doesn't resonate with your frequency just yet, or you're not just there at that level. All right? So that happens when you have these kind of communications. It takes great care to not say things that are out of the scope of your understanding of things, just so you can make a 5, 6, 10 minute video, 20 minutes or half an hour or something like that. But going back to the Astral Command, they just said, we just don't want any of these negative beings here at all. And they come from the future. They know, they've experienced this firsthand, what to say, and to come back and just tell me, hey, nothing, zero. That is a bold statement coming from them because they know the scenarios. When I was told this, it was a it was a fifth dimensional experience that I had back in late 2018, early 2019. That's when the fifth dimensional field came into being. All right, and it's very interesting that I say that because it's going to permeate the planet slowly, right? And what I mean is that the fifth dimensional field is already here, is already among us. The fifth dimension isn't a place, It's a state of being. It's a state of mind. It's a balancing of all your energies that you have in order for you to tap into that field. Sometimes I'm in it and I don't even realize it for myself until I'm out of it. That you say to yourself, well, you know what? You can't tell if it's 5 minutes. You can't tell if it was an hour. You can't tell if it was 30 minutes because there is no time in that specific field of energy. So back in that 2018, 2019 time frame, um, you tapped into that fifth dimensional field, and there's lots of things that I've experienced during that time. And that's one of the experiences that I shared with you once before. Um, Another experience with the Pleiadians as well, and from angelic energetic beings that I've connected with at that time, in that time frame. So it's permeating, it's coming into the human consciousness. It's going to be here because it manifests itself strongly in a very intimate way, right? And that's one way to experience it because that energy is just going to grow and grow and grow in among us. But when you're receiving information, just be mindful, accept it for what it is, let it linger, um, I- merge with it, but interact in a way that you're not entirely putting yourself um, at ease with that vibration. Um, but because of the scenarios and the situation that we're happening now, these holes that you have in your communication field, if you just thought about that baseball game that you spoke with the guy at the gas station, and he's just left those thoughts in your head, you start filling in these blanks that aren't quite right. And if you tap into a fifth dimensional existence for any short period of time, you'll come back and you say, well, what happened? And then you start to try and piece it together so it can make sense to you in a fourth dimensional sphere. I'm going to give you an example of something that I say to myself that's been repeated quite a few times and that I see it out there in the world. For those that want to go to the fifth dimension, I heard someone say, well, I'm going to wear a astronaut suit. Maybe not too thick, but something that fits over you like a scrub, right? And that's how I'll be in the fifth dimension. But the fifth dimension isn't a place. It isn't like you're gonna go anywhere. Or the world is gonna change. So there's a distortion in that kind of thinking because it doesn't exist outside of you. It's inside of you where it exists, where it's at right now. So as we tap into these energies and as we get these energies coming in, we're going to start experiencing more of these vertigos, more of these in and outs of dimensions. And it's not easy to tell the difference of what may or might not happen. Your very next action after you get some kind of channeling or information might distort the message after you receive it, especially if you don't actually put it out in words right away or write it down somewhere. So even though you wrote it down, and many of the things that I write down and then don't make any sense even an hour after I read them, but they made sense that very same minute after I wrote them, and then an hour later you read this and you're thinking, this is gibberish. Why? Because you connected with a source higher than yourself, maybe even your higher self, or you spoke to, I don't know, your future self, or whoever you had this conversation with, and just things that don't make sense. And then they're not entirely supposed to, okay? Because it's a connection. And if you fill in the wrong blanks, you're distorting it. You're making it different than what its intended purpose is. And seriously, not all messages are intended to be put out there for everybody, to them to listen to, and for them to understand what you're saying. That's why I don't mind if any of you or anybody just go through my videos and say, well, you know what, that doesn't, I don't know what the heck he's talking about or what's going on. All I do know is that we're living a very interesting period of time. And because of that, we have to center ourselves. We have to balance our energies in a way that we ourselves are not pulled into that kind of energy, so to speak. And let me put that in different words. When there are, galactic battles, there's different groups battling different other sorts of groups. So you and I can be in the same war, but we participate in different parts of that war. We have different opinions about that war, even though we both lived it together. We have different ways of interpreting what we experience during that time period. So right now, any one of us could be living through something difficult, but yet others of us from the positive collective are going through maybe a not so much of a tumultuous time for them, because it doesn't it's not the part of the battle that you're directly involved with. Each one of us has a purpose or mission during that time frame. So if you want to be calm and you want to be stable, because right now what I can feel in the general sense of things, it's two different things. There are factions now that are going through things right now, and there are some of us that are feeling the energy of a conflict because we're part of a positive collective, okay? And there are others that are living through that conflicting part of the collective, that action that's taking place outside of our scope. Right now I feel that there are others that are conflicting, and that kind of confusion brings about false information that doesn't necessarily help everyone else. So you might want to distance yourself from that kind of energy now. And I'm not saying don't support those that are with you doing those kind of actions now, but in your own being, in your own presence, in your own mindfulness, in your 0 point field, balanced now moment, recognize it, but say, I am not participating actively in that. The way that I can help you is by grounding my energies to help others go through the things that they're going through. So I feel that vice versa, because I've gone through situations in my life where I'm like, you know what? I know they know that I'm going through something right now, but they just can't get involved. And now this is my time to say to you, I know you're going through something right now, and it is my responsibility to hold that energy in for you, because it's going to help you support you through this process. So we're getting the beginning, we're getting the end. And when these two things come together, it reconciles. And that kind of reconciliation is source energy, an aspect of our Creator. So if you feel what I'm going through, if you feel right now that this resonates, yes, it resonates. And at any other time when you're not balanced, be sure to know that there's someone holding that space for you, ready to welcome you back as soon as you're done with the things that you're supposed to be doing. All right. I think that explained a lot of the things that are going on, and I don't want to go away or part from the scope of the energy that I feel about this, but be mindful about filling those gaps that they're not supposed to be put together. In fact, there are things that I've written down that I haven't put out in videos that I know that I'm going to be able to put down in the video in the future, because it felt it felt correct to write it down, but it didn't feel um, hmm, the energy wasn't there for me to um, put it in words or in a video just yet. It's just lingering because I know I'll probably need that very soon. And it goes back to these conflicts that we're talking about right now. Another thing I remember, just to kind of change the mood here for a second, was back in 2017. There was this war in space. I remember that galactic um, conflict that there was in space. And I remember feeling so drained and so just out of place. You know, it doesn't matter what I did or where I was, it felt like I was in a different planet altogether while I was still on Earth. And I would go and carry on and doing the activities that I generally would do, but it wasn't bringing in the feeling that brought me the pleasures of being on planet Earth. So I'd go and get a coffee, and you sip through your cup, and you're going about your routine, whatever that may be, and it just didn't feel pleasurable to participate in those kind of things. I'd probably go have a drink or something else, and it wasn't vibing or jiving. And I remember just going to my sacred place where I used to go to, and just I wasn't verbalizing it in words, but I was saying it in my head. I said, "What the f is going on? Why is this happening?" And through my third eye, I could see that there was these battles going on, and they were happening, you know, light versus dark. And through my third eye, I saw a six-dimensional bird species, the sphere being a lion's. He manifests himself right in front of me. I looked, and he scanned me. You know, have you seen like the eye in the movies? Like they have this iris scanner that kind of goes through your eye up and down like a red light. It was something similar to that. And then he just kind of went. I saw like a laser, and I'm just visualizing for you to think about what I went through, but it wasn't exactly a laser. It was a sort of like a energy movement. Let's call it that. Back just once, right? And I remember his expression was like, "Oh," and then he just left. And because I shouted out loud in my head, I'm like, okay, what is going on? And there were these battles that were happening. And it helped me explain that. But I felt the energy of that battle happen June, July 2017, mid 2017, maybe August or 2017 or something like that. Well, I don't want to make this video too long, but those that are battling out there, we're going to hold the energy for you guys. And well, that's it. I hope you guys have a great one. I'm going to post this way later, probably after the new year. And in between before now and the new year, so that you can enjoy your holiday. So you guys have a great one. I love you all. And we're all part of one collective. We're all part of one group here to help each other out. Thanks, guys.